Okay, thank you very much. Today I'm going to be presenting a talk that I prepared for the 2020 Ottawa conference in KL. And the presentation focuses on a longitudinal assessment for learning biosciences in an oral health therapy program. I too would like to acknowledge that I'm on Aboriginal land. I'm on the Turramurrugal land, and pay my respect and express my gratitude to elders past and present. So the talk essentially has two components. I'm firstly going to introduce the assessment, and then I'm going to introduce the research study. So just to provide a little bit of context, when I talk about the longitudinal assessment, it actually occurs over 4 semesters in year 1 and year 2 of this 3-year program. And there are various stages of learning the biosciences as we advance through the 4 semesters. There's a foundational component, then 2 semesters of biomedical sciences, and then finally advanced biosciences. So to improve student engagement and also to bridge the gap between learning basic science and clinical practice, along with my research collaborator here, Jin Longgao, we introduced a new assessment strategy in 2016. And essentially it's a scaffolded inquiry design that spans the 4 semesters. So the structure is fairly similar in each semester, and it follows an inquiry design, provides students with an inquiry framework and an opportunity to advance their inquiry in the biosciences over these 4 semesters. Each semester, students produce written work as well as doing oral presentations. The first 2 semesters are individual, and then there's a small group presentation, and the final semester is a student-led conference, which involves the whole cohort. Now, we've already done a couple of pieces of work around this longitudinal assessment, one looking at student engagement, and the next one looking at the student-led conference. But the research study that we're currently doing is what I'm going to be introducing now. So we're using data that we collected between 2016 and 2018 to trace the inquiry practices as students undertake their longitudinal assessments. So the methods of data collection that we've used are interviews, reflective essays, and focus group discussions. And this collective of research is interpretivist because it accepts that the social world is understood by the participants. In this case, it's the 1st and 2nd year oral health therapy students. And we've chosen to work with Levy's modes of inquiry-based learning framework to frame this study. So just to briefly orient you to the matrix. The vertical axis on the matrix represents the purpose of the inquiry. And for example, exploring knowledge or generating synthesis. The horizontal axis represents the primary responsibility, whether it's a student-driven or a teacher-driven initiative. And the 3rd dimension in each quadrant signifies whether there's more or less support given to the inquiry. And the 4 modes as labelled onto the matrix are identifying, pursuing, producing, and authoring. So our study was really inspired by Levy's work that seeks to map out, she mapped out problem-based learning in advanced undergraduate research, as you can see here with these 2 ovals, and also mapped out a spiral design and another sequential design that follows students engaged in inquiry. So we were really interested to see how our students map across these 4 quadrants in their inquiry over these semesters. So just to brief you on some of our findings, as we've embarked on this work, we realized that in order to, I guess, shift the data into being able to map, we really have done a lot of thinking about how to go about this, and we've been generating a sort of taxonomy, I guess, to be able to translate or transfer the data into the matrix terminology. And I think one of the key things that we're recognising is that all modes of inquiry occur in all the 4 semesters, and they're equally as valuable, and they don't actually necessarily shift in a sequential or spiral trace. So in conclusion, this research that we're doing promotes what we would consider to be an inclusive view of the enacted educational activities, doesn't position any one mode of inquiry as better than any of the others, or as students move from a more teacher-dependent to a more student-focused mode. Rather, they're actually moving among the modes across the 4 semesters. So in summation, we believe that this longitudinal assessment, driven by inquiry learning, offers students a scaffolded opportunity for learning within a professional degree context. And here's my details if you'd like to get in contact about our research.